Been too many people left at home watching it on the TV because the warm weather drew absolutely staggering crowds for this side-by-side super special. 3.2 kilometres the first stage was, just 20 kilometres outside Porto in the heart of the Portuguese wine-growing region, and 25 degrees centigrade the temperature. Massive attendance here. Tommi Mäkinen versus Didier Auriol, the first of the heads-to-heads. And it's the Toyota of Didier Auriol, despite making what he considered to be a small mistake running wide on one of the turns, that sets the fastest time. Next up, Colin McRae versus Carlos Sainz. So they're running in championship order. Championship leader versus the man who's second, Carlos Sainz, and Colin McRae, third equal in the championship, head-to-head against each other. Well, for Ford, McRae set down the early markers, winning the stage against Sainz, and in fact setting a faster time than anyone else. Marcus Grönholm was second, Carlos Sainz third, Didier Auriol fourth, Tommi Mäkinen fifth, and Juha Kankkunen was sixth. But dramas for Toyota in the form of the number 23 car. This is Saudi driver Abdullah Bakarshab and his British co-driver Michael Park. A slow roll of the Toyota, which unfortunately the engine kept running on a little longer than they would have liked when it was upside down, and pretty much destroyed itself. As you can see, the two crew members have not got enough muscle power to right the car. All those photographers there could have helped, but that would have excluded them anyway. So their rally over effectively before it starts. And I'm afraid no amount of rocking and muscle power by two men is ever going to turn a car back onto its wheels without the help of a big slope. Well, the event's over for them. You can see the oil in the exhaust burning away as the engine continues to run. It had pumped oil down the exhaust and the hot metal eventually setting fire to it. A very second-hand car. It's a shame because that's the car that Sainz used to win in New Zealand in '98. So the super special out of the way then, let's go to the first full day of rallying, as you can see, based around Porto. Day two, they'll head back down south, and the first 2 days containing very much the bulk of the stage mileage. Well, here we are, Tuesday morning, I beg your pardon, Monday morning. Everybody ready to go, final adjustments and concentrations being made. Tommi Mäkinen first on the road. Colin McRae, the overnight leader for Ford, from the Mitsubishi's second driver, Marcus Grönholm. If that's what he means by playing himself in slowly, heaven help the rest of them when he finally gets up to speed. Sainz and Auriol were third and fourth on the timesheets. Mäkinen was fifth, ahead of Kankkunen, the best of the Subarus. Armin Schwartz, incidentally, seventh quickest through the Super Special in the Skoda, so it certainly doesn't lack too much in terms of speed, at least in the early days. We'll be back in just a moment with more action. Don't go away. Leg of the Rally of Portugal. This is the man who leads the World Rally Championship, Tommi Mäkinen. Two great events to open the season. Wins in Monte Carlo and Sweden, followed by a disqualification from second place on the Safari. But unfortunately, the beginning of the Portuguese rally was not going well for the Finn. Taking to the road first, he had the worst of the dusty conditions, or the slippery conditions, should we say, on the road surface, clearing away the loose debris for the others to get slightly better traction. But he had more pressing problems on his mind, the differentials not working to his satisfaction. Mechanics doing their best to adjust, but they couldn't change it.
We have also a little problem with the transmission. It doesn't work very well. They just try to find out the problem now if they can. I hope they can find the problem.
Is it a problem engaging gears, or what do you think it is?
No, it's just diffs. Diffs doesn't work. Doesn't give locking enough. There's some, must be some. Hopefully it's just some electric problem.
Well, the high-tech differentials that these cars use run by electronic brains, just like the engine and gearbox box management systems. Tommy Mäkinen complaining that it wasn't ramping up enough, not locking up enough, and that means he's spinning away power on the inside unweighted wheels. Well, Colin McRae won the Super Special on Sunday, delighting Ford on the back of that victory last time out in the Safari, and blitzed through stages 2 and 3 as well, fastest on both the sections around Ponte de Lima.
We are a bit surprised. We knew the car would be competitive, but we weren't sure whether it would be good enough to go for a victory. But obviously after the first 2 stages, there's every possibility we can.
A lot of the others are saying that they went too soft on tyres. Do you feel as if you made the right choice?
Well, I think most of the other Michelin runners were on the same tyre as us, so that puts that theory out the window.
Either that, of course, or Colin and the Ford are much easier on their tyres. Well, not worried about the Michelin problems on Pirellis are the Subaru team. Richard Burns making a good start here. He's had a bit of a tentative start to the season, and now trying to rectify that. Blasting through stage 2 in 2nd position behind McRae. Well, Didier Auriol in the Toyota, 3rd after the first 2 special stages, lying behind the Scot and the Brit. McRae still holding his lead, Richard Burns in 2nd place overall. So Ford, Subaru, and then the Frenchman's Toyota, the top 3 different manufacturers. And after the Toyota, in 4th place, a 4th different manufacturer. Here it is, the Mitsubishi, and again, it's the number 2 machine. Marcus Grönholm playing himself in slowly. Well, no, not particularly. 4th fastest on both stages and holding down 4th position. 39.3 seconds behind the leader, 0.1 seconds behind Auriol. But what about the local heroes? The Iberian Peninsula has been, well, kind in times to Carlos Sainz. Toyota never a winner here. Carlos Sainz, though, you can see lots of Spanish flags in the crowd egging him on. Sainz holding 5th place after the first 3 stages, just a 2nd behind Grönholm.
It seems like it's going well, and of course the new Focus is going very well in his first gravel rally.
You going to make any changes to the car here?
No, I mean, when you look our performance, it's only him, because the rest we are more or less very equal like the rest of the season, no? So at the moment it seems like they have made big step forwards.
Well, you have to agree with him. McRae 13.2 seconds quicker than anyone else on the 3rd stage of the day. But trouble for Armin Schwartz in the Skoda on stage 2. He stalled it a couple of times. Clearly something slightly awry in the engine's brain. Czech machine once more on its way. And the German driver pushing as hard as he can, determined to make as much of an impression as possible, despite these electrical problems. 35-year-old and 38-year-old Czech Emil Treiner in the car's first stage appearances. Well, moving on to section 3, this is stages 4, 5 and 6, some of the most famous stages in rallying, including this spectacular jump at Fife. Well, Sainz was fastest on stage 4, McRae fastest on 5 and 6 from Burns and Sainz respectively on those two. So Colin McRae doing everything in his power to hold on to his lead. And just look at the angles of attack that the Scotsman gets with the Ford Focus, getting superb grip and really using all the evident power of the Ford's engine.
Into right and one left. And hairpin right. Into hairpin left. Into one right, don't cut. And 2 left, don't cut. Into 2 right plus opens. And 2 left plus don't cut. 30.
Extending your lead, smiling inside.
Yeah, no, very happy. It's going a lot better than we expected.
Well, fastest or equal fastest on 5 of the 6 stages. Can't really argue too much with that. Chasing hard, though, Carlos Sainz with that 1 stage win. And he's been there or thereabouts all the way through. He won stage 4, just losing 0.6 seconds on the leader on the final. He's moved up from 5th place after stage 3 to 2nd place after stage 6. And the question is now, can Sainz do anything about McRae in the Ford? These two arch rivals, in or out of the same team. Richard Burns, quickest in 2 and equal quickest in 3 as well. He lost 2nd place overall, though, in stage 4. And equalled Colin McRae's time in stage 5. Certainly going far better than the other pair of Subarus. Juha Kankinen 6, Bruno Thierry testing the new gearbox in 10th place. Burns 3rd after stage 6, ahead of Didier Auriol and Marcus Grunholm. Grunholm here in the Mitsubishi, still outpacing his team leader. Don't forget, he'd only done 15 kilometres of testing before the start of the event on Sunday, and this is a pretty impressive performance. Peugeot must be very glad to have this Finn aboard.
It's quite okay. Now I hit a little bit some stone in out of the corner when it came, so I lost a piece of the rim, and it was a vibration, so I thought we have a puncture, but we did the last 7 Ks, okay, a little bit slower, so we lost a little bit time.
Not too much, he was still 6th quickest through. Well, what about Seat and their WRC machine? Getting better and better all the time. The Cordobas are certainly as reliable just about as the team would hope, but not quite on front-running pace. That was Harry Rovanperä. Here's another Finn. This is the world champion, Tommi Mäkinen, and his nightmares continue. 7th after the 3rd stage. He lost 2 more places in the run-around Faith to drop down to 9th, 1 minute and 46 seconds behind Colin McRae. The engineers know where the problem is in the differential. The only problem is in the limited 20-minute service. They just don't have time to change it.
We have to try to go next 3 stages and just change it in the evening.
Well, that's the story. In Formula 2, Alistair McRae leading the tree. McRae's in charge of both categories then. Overall, it's Colin. Formula 2, it's Alistair. Just need a 3rd McRae to win Group N, really, don't we? The Hyundai Formula 2 car sounding superb, and young Alistair throwing it around with gay abandon. Kenneth Eriksson 2nd in class, very disappointed to withdraw from his home event, the Swedish, when he was leading the category. And he takes over the lead. Colin McRae then leading overall by 41.1 seconds from Carlos Sainz. Richard Burns in 3rd for Subaru. 2 Toyotas in the top 4, courtesy of Didier Auriol. Then Marcus Grunholm in the best of the Mitsubishis, and Juha Kankinen, number 18, having rolled down a ravine. Driver and co-driver walked away from this one, but 34 retirements during the day, including 4 in fact on the 1st stage. Taking out the all-star Subarus, Christoph Holovitz went off, was hit by his teammate Toshio Arai. Michael Guest in the Winfield Subaru then ran into both of them, and they were hit by a Formula 2 car before any of them could get out of the ditch. A tough old day. Tough day too for Skoda. They managed to get almost all the way back to service, but both cars retired at the end of stage 8 with clutch failure. So the Octavia with new car teething problems, sidelining Emil Treiner we saw there, and Armin Schwartz. Tommy Mäkinen, 9th in the overall classification, lost 6 seconds in the final 3 stages, so trying to keep the damage at bay. Now that the team know exactly what the problem is, they can change it after the final special before they go into the overnight service park. So Tommy Mäkinen should be restored to fully functioning order for day 2 of the event, Tuesday. Sixth overall, Juha Kankinen, never in with a clear shout at an overall fastest time on the stages throughout the day. Not really the best of days for Subaru, not the best of days for Kankinen, and not a good day either for Bruno Thierry at the bottom of the top 10, testing the fly-by-wire transmission once more. Ahead of Kankinen then, it's Finland a go-go, because Markus Grönholm ties down 5th. His avowed intention in day 1 was to learn how the car went. I think he fairly much got to grips with that. Be interesting to see what he can do on day 2. He's had some pretty impressive performances on his odd forays into the World Rally Championship for Toyota in '98. See what he can do for a different Japanese manufacturer in '99. Well, Didier Auriol just 1 spot ahead of him in 4th place, and looking for another podium finish to keep his strong championship challenge alive. It's been a long time since Didier Auriol was a champion of the world, and I'm sure he would like to do it again. He took the fastest time on stage 7. That was the stage after Carlos Sainz had his big problem of the day. He broke the left rear suspension on stage 6, having hit something. He was in 2nd place until stage 8 in a big battle with Richard Burns. Burns gained the upper hand by 0.9 seconds by setting fastest time through stage 8. And that means that it's a British 1-2 at the end of the day. Burns in 2nd place on the leaderboard, courtesy of that penultimate stage win. And Colin McRae going through in the lead in the Ford Focus, right off the back of that victory, setting the fastest time on the final stage of the day, stage 9, to reinforce his lead here.
Yeah, it's great, delighted. It's been a good day and the car's worked really well.
3rd on the road today, you're going to be 1st on the road tomorrow. Not going to be a problem?
Yeah, it's going to be a small problem, but it shouldn't be bad. We've got quite a good gap, so I don't think it'll be a major problem, but you never know.
Quite a good gap indeed, 49.2 seconds. Carlos Sainz just a smidgen behind Richard Burns in 3rd place. The focus on the first of the normal, if you like, asphalt rally, gravel rallies of the championship after the 3 real specialist events, the Monte, Sweden and Kenya, really showing its mettle, and Carlos Sainz feeling the pressure. The Toyota driver, of course, enjoying renewed success with his favourite old team. Didier Auriol, here talking to Autosport's Keith Oswin, doing a very good job indeed. Auriol's been very consistent this year and is showing real flashes of the brilliance that has made him a multiple world champion. But for Tommy Mäkinen, the man who is the reigning world champion, it couldn't really have gone much worse. He had a problem all the way through the day with his differential, something that was only cleared up during the course of the 2nd day.
We'll see. A very long way going up. I'm sure we are too far, absolutely too far behind that. I try to do what I can.
A man that never says die, but here's the way they finished leg 1 then. McRae with 49.2 seconds over Richard Burns, Carlos Sainz in 3rd, Didier Auriol 4th, Markus Grönholm in 5th position and Juha Kankinen in 6th. Well, on to day 2 then. And once more, the good weather bringing out throngs of spectators. The temperature's slightly lower, as you can see, the wind's pretty high, but that will help with the dust clearance on these very dusty but very spectacular hillside stages. Colin McRae then, having finished the end of the day one on top of the leaderboard, opening the road for everybody and sweeping away the loose coverings on the surface. That's definitely deemed to be a disadvantage here in Portugal, and McRae knew that that was going to be the case, but it didn't seem to be slowing him a great deal.
The start clock was 25 seconds, 28 seconds quicker than, or too fast than rally time. We checked into the arrival control, that clock was fine. Then at the start line, the guy signaled us to go when on my watch I had 30 seconds. So after a lot of confusion, managed to get the marshals to actually change my time card because the time was incorrect. And then basically by the time they'd done that, they just dropped the time card on my lap and said go. And we've had to start with approximately 5 seconds into the minute.
So confusion with the timing, slightly hampering Colin McRae's challenge, but the world champion here, we're riding in car with Tommi Mäkinen and Risto Männäs-Mäki, trying hard to make up for lost time.
Pitkä helppo vasen, 4, huomio, pirun pitkä K, vasen, tiukka kirraa, vähän, 3.
So Mäkinen, second quickest on stages 10 and 11, the first two of the day, but only 6.7 seconds gain back on Colin McRae. 9th after the first leg, 7th after the first couple of stages, but McRae keeping his lead comfortably after the first two.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure's on now because it's realistic that we can win the rally. If you looked at the, I did some calculations last night based on sort of the experience, and we felt that Tommi Mäkinen could probably, if he had a fantastic run, judging by the position on the road that he is, that he could probably have pulled about 1 minute and 8 seconds back from Colin. But at the moment, after the first two stages, he's nowhere near what sort of we'd calculated.
In fact, the man who was really getting the pedal to the metal with best form was Didier Auriol, the Frenchman, the fastest of the day, or has most fastest stage times of the day, taking stage 10 ahead of Colin McRae and Tommi Mäkinen. Oh dear, it's all going pear-shaped.
Well,
we're third on the road, says Didier, and as a result, the surface was a lot cleaner for us. That's why we're setting such good times. Second stage had a lot of sand on it, but we did a good time anyway. We've taken a few seconds back from Sainz and McRae, but the day, he says, is just beginning. Well, what about Carlos Sainz? Didier Auriol taking second place from the Spaniard, and the Toyota pair settling into what would turn out to be a day-long slugging match over that second position. Neither of them, it seems, could really gain much an advantage over Colin McRae, but they certainly had a great battle going on between the two of them. Richard Burns, second overnight, fastest on stage 11, the second of the day, but just by a tiny margin. And that meant that, in the end, he lost time and ground to both Didier Auriol and Carlos Sainz. The Subaru driver, though, having the best of luck of the ProDrive Run team.
Fast left, minus long, go 40, braking medium left plus long 30, K right, long 60, medium right plus 60.
Basically, we got the wrong tyres for the combination of the stages. In the first one, we lost 10 seconds. We had a tyre which was working well on the second stage where there's a lot of sand, but it was too hard in the first stage and it just couldn't cope. We didn't have enough grip there.
Well, despite his tyre problems, Richard Burns still holding the banner aloft for Subaru as more experienced multiple world champion teammate Juha Kankkunen plainly struggled. He wasn't very well up the leaderboard at the end of day one, and he didn't progress too much quicker during day two. Problems also for Bruno Thierry. He's using the fly-by-wire gearbox, don't forget, and this stall in stage 10 certainly didn't help him. But should think he was probably concentrating too much to really pay much attention to the cat calls from the spectators. But worse was to come, I'm afraid, because at this stage we were starting, or just about to start, losing drivers. This near stall for Piero Liati in the Seat WRC, the least of his problems.
Destra 5, per sinistra 1. In destra e sinistra 1 più arco.
That'll be the Italian for Ups then. Liati and co-driver Carlo Cassina rolling the Seat on stage 10 right at the feet of Vincente Aguilera, the president of Seat Sport, and Jamie Pooch, the director of Seat Sport, who had gone on to the stage to spectate. Unfortunately, the car was too badly damaged to continue. It limped out of the stage, but as you can see, significant damage, not just to the bodywork, but also, disappointingly, to the cooling system. And they were out.
Rolling. And stop. Finish? Yes, absolutely, yeah. The problem with the radiator, the water radiator.
Well, Liati and his co-driver celebrating their first anniversary of working together, but not in the style in which they had hoped. And things were to happen badly for Harry Rovanperä as well, hitting a rock and ripping the left front suspension off the car. He was also out before the end of the day.
The car has progressed a lot since its debut in Finland. Any particular differences that you've felt in the car on this rally so far?
Yes, we're testing 3 days in gravel and we're changing a lot of suspension and differential and we need working a little bit more that also, and after that.
So after 11 stages, 2 in the second morning, Rally of Portugal, and we're halfway through day 2. Colin McRae, the overnight leader, still in charge of the event, no longer setting fastest stage times, but not losing much to the chasing Toyotas of Didier Auriol, fastest on stage 12, and Carlos Sainz, second fastest. As you can see, fabulously exciting stages on the Portuguese rally, like the monster jump at the end of the 5th stage, or the end of day 1, and this absolutely beautiful piece of rally road. The camera in the helicopter giving such a sensational view. I'm sure the drivers never have a time to appreciate it, but the spectators certainly do. Colin McRae, no better than 4th on stage 12, 13 or 14. But after dominating on the first day, he has got a comfortable cushion. In the 3 stages, he only lost 0.8 seconds to Didier Auriol, the second-place man. The battle for second really hotting up, though. Auriol with Carlos Sainz and the man who was second overnight, Richard Burns, snapping at his heels. Sainz closing strongly. Richard Burns doing his very best to hold on to the internecine Toyota battle. Well, Auriol claiming his 3rd stage victory on stage 12, the first out of the second group of services. But McRae still leading by 43 seconds from Auriol, but only 53 from Sainz. So it's the Spaniard who's been making most inroads. The spectators getting a good view from the roadside, and as ever our onboard cameras giving us a great view from inside the Toyota Corolla.
Rapidojos de tierra, abrirse, izquierda buena más, se cierra mucho. Para derecha, rapidojos de tierra, ras, asar. Para Confe, izquierda, rapidojos de tierra. Para derecha, rápida menos. Para Confe, izquierda, rápida menos corta, se cierra. 2. Derecha, rapidojos extra, se cierra. Para Santi, izquierda rápida, menos por fuera, se cierra y se cierra. Abrirse, acaba izquierda, acá corta, posible cuarta. Se cierra y se cierra.
Carlos and Didier are both eating into Colin's lead a little bit, but at the moment I would hate to make the calculation that shows that we managed to catch him.
It's going to be a hard next day and a half.
It's going to be interesting. Our guys are both pushing like hell, and they're going to keep doing that. and we just have to hope that Colin doesn't make more stages like stage 2 and 3 yesterday.
Ex-rally driver George Donaldson, the Toyota team manager. Well, Colin McRae really sets the groundwork on day one for this event, and Tommy Mäkinen trying desperately to make up for his wretched day one and stay in some sort of a point-scoring situation. Probably, in fact, almost definitely too late for victory, but Mäkinen never says die. Always in the top 3 in stage times during the morning, but not making enough inroads to have any chance of a podium position.
Jatkuu pitkä K vasen miinus. Ja oikein nopea plus helppo. 4, pitkä oikein nopea. 3. Tosi pitkä K vasen miinus, kirraa vähän. 3. Pitkä oikein nopea miinus. 5. K oikein pikku sumppu ja helppo vasen.
Mäkinen's problems weren't aided by having brake trouble on stages 13 and 14, but it was even worse for his teammate Marcus Grönholm, running through 14 completely without braking ability, having to use lots of sideways action and the gearbox to slow the car down. Well, as if the Peugeot contracted driver hadn't been spectacular enough in his first ever day in a Mitsubishi on day one. It's even more spectacular on stage 14, trying to keep the thing on the island.
When he stopped between the stages, the temperature went up in the caliper, and I think he's damaged a seal, so we're not quite sure yet, but we're just going to change the calipers and the seal and the discs, so just unfortunate.
How much time do you think he lost in that last one?
Well, he certainly lost more than a minute, which is too much these days when you see how close they are. You know, stages like that, they're only tenths of a second apart. I mean, it's so competitive that a problem like this, and you drop 3 or 4 places.
Andrew Can himself, of course, the Mitsubishi team boss, former winner of the London to Sydney Marathon and a professional driver in his time. This is Peter Solberg in the second Ford Focus, the Norwegian champion. This is his second outing in the car, replacing the injured Thomas Radstrom, leading and picking up speed as he goes.
Yeah, for sure, it's a big problem to be new in the World Championship and start writing notes and learn new car, new team, everything, a new co-driver. So everything have to just take a little bit of time, but I think it helps. But next year and the year after that, it starts to get real fast, I think.
I meant learning, of course, not leading. This is for Broomy and the boys at MSD. Pictures of the cars they've been working hard to keep at the front of the Formula 2 field all day. Alistair McRae in the Hyundai, and Kenneth Eriksson, his Swedish teammate, leading and second in Formula 2 by quite some margin. Incidentally, rocks thrown at Kenneth Eriksson's car on stage 10, cracked stages, but the stages themselves were very unkind to the Finns during the course of the afternoon. Juha Kankinen retired on the road section after stage 15. You can see he's there checking the oil. Broken engine, fell onto 2 cylinders, and that was the end of his run in Portugal.
Maybe it has been already all the time something little wrong on that, because that maybe was the thing that, I mean, I don't know what.
No good news either for Harry Rovanperä, hitting a rock at high speed on stage 16. The Seat WRC looking very convincing until he ripped the wheel off it with a small indiscretion. Disappointing, Seat failing to finish with either of their cars in the first time since the 1997 Catalunya rally. Bad news too for Marcus Grönholm. He retired on stage 16. It was the output shaft from the clutch that sidelined him. Well, Mitsubishi's normally paragons of reliability, but Grönholm out of the event. It says something about the performance of the new Seat WRC that it almost doesn't bear mention, the fact that they are running strongly in the top 10. Unfortunately for Seat, neither car finishing in Portugal. And Bruno Thierry, look at this, rolled the Subaru, cracked the windscreen, damaged the bonnet, but it didn't actually go over on the roof. It sort of pivoted around the nose of the car, and he was 6th overnight.
Mistake. It was a slippery corner, and I hit the bank, and then we went on 2 wheels, and then we rolled once.
Didn't even take the aerial off the roof there. Very bizarre roll, 500 metres before the end of stage 13. Well, Tommi Mäkinen, fastest on stage 15, his only top time of the afternoon, continuing his fight back, but still locked in 5th place. 2 World Championship points will be all he gets for that. That won't help his series lead much. Richard Burns just ahead of him, fastest on stage 17. Should have been 3 from home, but it turned out to be the final stage of the day, more of which in a moment. And he finishes the day 4th overall. He'd been looking forward to the final 2 stages where he'd run well in the morning. His challenge for taking 2nd place back from the Toyotas rather blunted. Didier Auriol, 3rd at the end of day 2. Lost power in stage 17 after hitting a rock in stage 16, damaged the radiator, and the car starting to overheat. Relatively good day, he says, apart from the final stage. We had water leaking from the radiator. I realised just before we went into the special, but we had to go without water injection in the intercooler. And that means to say that we had less power from the turbo than we should have done. So we lost a little bit of horsepower. We lost 3 or 4 seconds to Carlos, so wasn't too bad. So damage limitation helping there, but on that final stage of the day, Carlos Sainz did overhaul his French teammate to take 2nd place. Sainz was fastest on stage 16, 2nd fastest by 0.6 of a second on the final stage of the day, and that was just enough to ease ahead of his rival. But not enough to do anything about the Flying Scotsman. Clichés a go-go, but there's no other way to describe Colin McRae at the moment, with a huge confidence boost after winning in Kenya, the first event that he's won in the Focus. He looks very much as though he's got this rally by the scruff of the neck.
50. Right and 6 left over crest. 30, 3 left plus over crest, opens. Into 6 right over crest, middle and right, tightens to 3 plus. 50, 5 left plus, opens and tightens over jump. Into 4 right plus, tightens. 70.
Colin McRae, as he was on the first day, in superlative form.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, we've been losing a bit of time today, which we knew we would do because of the conditions. And we lost quite a bit in the last 3. The first one was very loose, and obviously then a lot of wheel spinning that wore the tyres quite a lot on the first of the 3 stages. So then the next 2 we had to be very careful, so we dropped a wee bit more again.
Well, the final 2 stages were cancelled on safety grounds. Just far too many spectators in the stage Sunday, and has led every leg of it, every stage of it ever since. In the Ford Focus car number 7, a 33-second lead overnight going into the final day. Chased by Carlos Sainz. Sainz was quickest on 3 of the day's stages on Tuesday, and at the end of the day, he had pulled back 17 seconds on the rally leader in his Toyota Corolla. But he hadn't had it all his own way. He'd been having a day-long battle with this man, the man in the red overalls, that is, not Malcolm Wilson or anyone else in the photo there. Didier Auriol, the 2nd Toyota, started the day in 3rd place behind Richard Burns on Tuesday, overhauled the Englishman, and then fought a long battle against Sainz to try and hold on to 2nd. Well, as you can see from the leaderboard at the end of day 2, he failed. Sainz just squeezed ahead of him, chasing McRae for all he was worth. Burns was pushed down to 4th in the Subaru. The other point-scoring places held by world champion Tommi Mäkinen, winner of the first 2 rounds, don't forget, and Bruno Thierry in the 2nd Subaru Impreza with the fly-by-wire electronic gearbox system. Well, the job was always going to be toughest for the chasers in the final day, just 60 stage miles, and that's with 40 hacked off yesterday's stage mileage, or kilometrage, I suppose you should say. It's 60 stage kilometres. Meant that Carlos Sainz, Didier Auriol and the rest had only 60% of the time that they had hoped for to try and catch Colin McRae. So those 40 kilometres, the stages that didn't happen on the second leg because of safety worries, could perhaps now be starting to prove vital. Well, Colin McRae, first on the road on Tuesday, knew what to expect on Wednesday. It was likely to be more slippery for him. He was likely to find less traction than anybody else would. The cars starting behind him would have an advantage, as his tyres would have swept loose dust, sand and gravel off the stage, giving them more bite. So for Carlos Sainz and for his teammate here, Didier Auriol, this really was perhaps a last gasp opportunity to make some inroads into the 33 and 34-second disadvantages, respectively, that they had. But Colin McRae was not ready for that. He wasn't the fastest man on any of the stages today. He came away from the event with a total of 6 best times on stages set on the first and second days. He did what he needed to do today, run as fast and hard as he could, but a mature, level-headed drive, keeping the focus in the lead and on the road. Well, Sainz, second quickest on the first stage of the morning. 3.5 seconds he pulled back from Colin McRae, the difference down to 29.5 seconds. Problem with the differential, Luis, he says.
Acaba rasando en izquierda para derecha calenta corta, frenando para izquierda buena menos, se abre. Derecha calenta corta, frenando por la leche puta. Izquierda buena menos, se abre. Acaba buena, se cierra. Frenando mucho para derecha media, se cierra.
Well, translate the clean bits of that little conversation there. Sainz pressing on as he finds that the differentials aren't ramping up properly for him. Meanwhile, behind him, more worries perhaps for the Spaniard, because Didier Auriol's car running strongly at this stage in third place. And the Frenchman starting to look like overhauling the Spaniard for second place. But for Colin McRae, everything's still going well.
Yeah, not so bad. Still very loose on the top, though. So it's a bit of a disadvantage at the front, but it didn't seem too bad.
Carlos took a little bit of time out of you. Think you're going to live?
Yeah, it looks okay at the moment.
Well, you can never be too confident with Carlos Sainz right behind you.
Carlos, you've taken a little bit of time off Colin in the first stage this morning. You think you're going to run out of stages like last year?
It's too long way. It's too far away, but we try anyhow.
The indefatigable Carlos Sainz, as he says, really the margin too much to make up in such a short distance, particularly with that differential problem. But never a man to give up. Neither, it seems, is Didier Auriol really enjoying a renewed lease of life here in Portugal.
Didier, you look as if you're trying maximum.
I try maximum, but we start this morning without cut on the tire. We think it was more hard, and we don't get the traction. I mean, okay.
So tyre choice problems inflicting themselves on the Toyota team, but Tommy Mäkinen was the man who seemed to be in best form, running behind the top half dozen on the road. In fact, in fifth place, he was getting perhaps the best of the conditions before the stages really cut up, and he was in flying form. Fastest on 3 of the day's 4 stages.
Lyhyt oikea eri aukeaa 5. Nyppy 6, huomio nyppy vasenlaita 2, alas, paha oikea. Ja vasen nopea. Nyppy 15 alas, pitkä vasen nopea miinus. 5. Vasen nopea miinus kirraa, heti pitkä oikea nopea plus aukeaa.
Well, Mäkinen's chances of victory went west on the first day when he was hobbled by differential problems. Richard Burns fighting back in his Subaru, trying desperately to stay ahead of the chasing pack. 5th and 8th in the first 2 specials. He is now out of a chance of the podium position with just 2 stages left, and perhaps threatened by Tommy Mäkinen, closing and just 16.4 seconds behind the Subaru. Mäkinen keeping up the pressure, continuing to really pile on the times, pushing as hard as he dares.
Yeah, we try very hard. We try as hard as possible.
Shame about those problems on day one. Is it still bugging you?
Not so much at the moment. Of course, it was a bit disappointed because we haven't got so similar problems so often. It's not so nice.
The normally reliable Mitsubishi not quite holding up its end of the bargain on day one of the event. So Colin McRae leading by 29.8, Didier Auriol just a few seconds away, and Burns and Mäkinen locked in that battle for fourth place. Bruno Thierry still well out of time. On the stage 22, the penultimate stage of the rally, losing time once more to the Toyotas behind him. But has time really run out for McRae, or is the distance between him, Carlos Sainz, just too great for the Spaniard to bridge? Well, Sainz, you just know, gives it everything, wants teammates, but even then they were really strong rivals. Sainz and McRae have so often come into this head-to-head situation. Sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the other, but Carlos Sainz, third in the stage, and drops to 20.5 seconds behind McRae. There's just one special left. Didier Auriol, second on the stage, but he won't be able to catch Carlos Sainz, and it all stems really from a tyre problem, making a bad choice at the beginning of the day. You heard him say before the break that they had thought the surface would be harder than it was. They'd have to cut the tyres. So what could they realistically do about it? George Donaldson explains.
Yeah, well, they have to stay with these tyres. The tyres chosen this morning, they have to use all day today. So that's just one set of tyres, and we've just made some cutting here just now, and that's it for the day. One more stage, and they have to live with what they have.
Well, Donaldson's not too pleased, but what about Ford boss Malcolm Wilson? Car running well, so was he happy?
We're very happy with the times that Colin did, and then on the third one this morning, he went quite a bit quicker because the surface was dry and hard, which really put hopefully a stop to the challenge from Toyota.
Didn't put a stop to the challenge from Tommi Mäkinen, though. Mäkinen quickest again on the third stage of the morning, but really just still too far from Richard Burns to seize that fourth place, unless the Subaru driver were to run into some sort of major problem. Unfortunately for Burns, he didn't have those problems. Hanging on to Mäkinen's shirt tails in terms of time on the third stage in the morning, and just keeping his nose in front. Well, final service, and the crew's just making sure that the car's in tip-top fettle. Plenty of polishing going on there on the Ford, you notice, just in case it goes onto the podium. And a final good luck message from the team for Didier Auriol. One stage to go, he's in a podium position. So it's all down to stage 23. The battle for the lead, Colin McRae goes in with the advantage. 20.5 seconds. Carlos Sainz just behind. Will this be a repeat of Portugal 98? Last year, Colin McRae was in a Subaru, and he had a huge battle with Carlos in the final stage, winning the rally by just 2.1 seconds. A real cliff-hanging ending, and it looks as though it could go the same way again. Last year, it was Carlos Sainz who gazed despairingly at the clocks at the end of the final test and knew that barely a hair's breadth had separated him from overhauling the Subaru for victory. This year the Toyota star was again chasing hard. For Sainz, it wasn't enough. He wasn't even quickest on the stage. That went to Didier Auriol. Colin McRae came home 5th, 8.4 seconds slower than Carlos Sainz, as it turned out, and that was enough to keep him ahead and heading for the podium in top spot. Nicky Grist reading through the times to the team and the messages of congratulations following on the radio to the guys back in the service area. No miracles then for Carlos Sainz. He must have realised that on sheer pace he couldn't overhaul, but he knows all too bitterly from the Network Q Rally of Great Britain that it's not over till you get to the finish line.
Carlos, do you think you've done enough?
Well, you can tell from the faces, he doesn't even need to answer the question. They know.
Et piège gauche sur attention, droite 62 à voir, très étroit. 40 mètres, droite sur attention, gauche 5 attention, poteau. Droite sur attention, gauche 5 attention, poteau.
Didier Auriol on board, and you can see just how hard he's trying. Denis Girodet yelling the notes at him, caution, caution.
Sur gauche à fond. Léger droite à fond. Sur gauche à fond. C'est bon, c'est bon. Gauche à fond, encore. Sur droite, sur attention, gauche 5 plus, 5 plus. Sur droite, sur le dan, sur attention, gauche 5 attention. C'est rien. Sur droite, sur le dan, sur attention, gauche 5 attention.
Didier Auriol right at the limit there, up onto 2 wheels, nearly going over.
Do you think you've done it?
No, says Denny, we need a second.
J'aimerais bien voir les images intérieures après.
He said, but you're going to enjoy the onboard images later. Excellent.
J'ai pris le virage un petit peu trop à l'intérieur. La voiture a un petit peu monté sur 2 roues, mais là c'était pas catastrophique. Je dis à aucun moment.
I took the corner too tight. I got up onto 2 wheels. It wasn't a catastrophe though, says Didier. I never thought it would roll. Could have been a problem when we landed, but we only lost half a second, and that's all. No damage, nothing. Well, Denis Girodet saying that he would love to see those onboard pictures. Denny, I hope you've enjoyed them this evening. Well, what about Tommy Mäkinen, the battle he was having with Richard Burns? Didier Auriol quickest on the final stage. Tommy Mäkinen quicker than Richard Burns, but not by enough. 2.2 seconds quicker, the Finn went through the stage, so the Englishman held on to his place. Richard Burns holding on to that hard-fought for 4th place. Well, last year, twice a winner. This year, not so far. But Burns and Subaru keep on trying. World Rally team celebrated the first anniversary of its entry into the World Rally Championship in Portugal with a crushing 1-2 victory in Formula 2. Alistair McRae took class victory, closely followed by teammate Kenneth Eriksson, putting the double disappointments of retirement in Sweden firmly behind them. A Hyundai occupied the top of the Formula 2 leaderboard for all but 2 of the event's 21 stages. And Alistair McRae making it a McRae on top overall and in F2.
Was it a battle between you and Kenneth all of the way? Did you have to go flat out all of the way?
No, I think after the first day, we pushed fairly hard on the first day and we got a bit of a lead. Then with the others having problems, it was a case of both Kenneth and I, between us, we decided we'd sort of back off and drive to the other car's pace. And it went really well with first and second. First win for Hyundai, so it was a really good event.
On day 1 you had some problems with the tyres. Did that balance out over day 2 and 3?
I mean, the problem with the tyres was me. I chose the wrong tyre for the first 2 stages, stage 2 and 3. Apart from that, I've had no problems. The tyres have worked really well. The car's been good, 100% reliable, so it's looking good for the rest of the year.
He just couldn't look for an excuse if he had to, could he? Too honest for his own good, Alistair McRae, the Formula 2 winner. This is Miguel Campos, the Group N winner in the Mitsubishi Lancer, and that's Mitsubishi's 4th Group N victory from 4 starts this year. Second in Group N, Gustavo Trellis, the Uruguayan, and third in Group N for Subaru, this time, Juha Kangas. Well, in 6th overall, using the fly-by-wire gearbox system, this is Bruno Thierry. The fly-by-wire system, very much like a Formula 1 gear change, a paddle behind the right-hand steering wheel rim, allows the driver to change up automatically. That's connected to the fly-by-wire throttle that all the cars have. The gearbox connected to the engine, connected to the differentials, connected to the thigh bone. I think you get the picture. He was 6th anyway, and it seems that all the Subarus will have that fly-by-wire gearbox control system for the next round, Rally Catalunya. 5th overall for Tommy Mäkinen, and really his rally fell apart on day one when Mitsubishi lost its traditional reliability. Fourth place, using the fly-by-wire throttle control, but not yet the gearbox, Richard Burns. After the survival of the Thierry Carr's prototype system on this rough, tough rally, the team now think that it is probably pretty much ready to go. So Burns and Kankkunen and Thierry, or whoever the point-scoring drivers are nominated for Catalonia, can't second-guess that, will get their chance to try it in anger. Didier Auriol in third place. Couldn't quite catch Carlos Sainz in the death, and that little half-second two-wheeled worry, well, that won't have put him off, but just indicative of how hard he was trying. And for Carlos Sainz, close, not as close as last year, but still no cigar this time. He now moves on, of course, to home territory. I think there may have been a few Spanish flags in the hillsides in the long shots in Portugal. Just wait till he gets into his home territory in the Basque Country on Rally Catalunya. Well, Colin McRae in devastating form here on the first proper gravel rally of the championship after the three specialist events, Sweden, the Monte, and of course the highly specialised Kenya Safari Rally, which McRae and Ford won. This is a chance to show the car's mettle in more traditional, if you will, European rally-style territory. And both car and crew and the whole of the Ford team, I think, came out with flying colours. Being welcomed back by the spectators and the whole Ford team. Malcolm Wilson there, the team boss. But after the victory in Safari, was perhaps the lead on day one still a surprise to Colin?
No, we planned it. Obviously, I was looking at the stages very carefully on the rally, and I knew by the feel of the car where I thought we could pick up time. And the plan was to really push 100% plus in the first one and see how it was after that.
Did you build into your testing program the fact that you may have been first on the road in day two and therefore day three?
Not really. I mean, you sort of adjust as it happens. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's all it is very fine adjustment on dampers and spring setup, obviously to go more for traction than precision.
Obviously, it's been in the newspapers in the UK about the Formula One drive. Looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good challenge. It's something that everyone would love to do. That you know, at this sort of level, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Malcolm's going to be doing all he can to keep hold of you, though.
I'm sure he is, yeah.
Tommy Mäkinen, of course, tested a Williams last year and crashed it. Let's hope that Colin doesn't do the same with the Jordan. Well, the Ford should shed 40 kilos before they get to the tarmac of Spain.
What is everybody going to do about these Fords?
Well, they're fabulous, aren't they? But we think we're just as fabulous as they are, so we reckon we'll have a very good race in Catalunya. For sure, all the cars are all very, very close now, which is how we want the championship.
What developments have you got coming through with the Corolla for the next two tarmac events?
Well, all that development has been done. We've done all our testing in the last month or so, or finalised anyway, and we have new mappings on all the transmissions, and we reckon we've made some good developments with the car.
Well, we'll have to wait and see that one with interest. Colin McRae, his second victory of the season, makes him an 18 times winner in the World Championship, level with current driver Didier Auriol and Hannu Mikkola, also on 18. Marco Alén has 19 of the current drivers, and Juha Kankkunen on 21, and Carlos Sainz are ahead of him in the list, and that is, in fact, the only drivers ahead of him in the all-time lineup. Those are the top half-dozen point-scoring drivers then, and that means that Colin McRae has pulled himself up into second in the championship, and he has also moved forward into second in the all-important Manufacturers Title Series race as well. Well, Ford winning its second event from its first four rallies. Only Peugeot's 205 T16 was as successful as this. It won its third World Rally Championship event, the Thousand Lakes, in 1984, then went on to win the next 5 events. So that's some challenge still for Ford. Don't forget, however, that Lancia has won first rally out with its Stratos, its 037, its Delta S4, HF, Integrale,